I think they went in too fast, but in the inquest that was sorted out. I've driven through the tunnel myself.
It's been 20 years since Princess Diana tragically died in a car crash in Paris, but the deep sense of loss continues to resonate with those who were close to her. Among them is Colin Tebbutt, her regular driver, who recently opened up about his feelings and experiences in his first live television interview since the accident. It's worth mentioning that what he revealed about Diana's stressful death made her passing even more terrifying than ever. Hold your breath to listen to Colin Tebbutt's story about Diana. Colin appeared on a friendly chat with hosts Kate Garraway and Ben Shepherd, where he struggled to hold back tears as he recounted the harrowing events following the crash and expressed his lingering sense of responsibility. Colin revealed that he has always felt a deep sense of guilt for not being the one to drive Princess Diana on that tragic night. When asked by the hosts about his feelings of responsibility, he admitted, "Yes, you always do feel responsible." He then described the moment he learned about the accident, a moment that transformed an otherwise ordinary night into a nightmare. Recalling the evening, Colin said, "I was in bed with my wife and she answered the phone. Initially, the call seemed normal, with his wife engaging in light-hearted banter with the caller. However, the conversation quickly took a serious turn. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, she handed the phone to Colin, saying, "I think you better get up and sit on the end of the bed and take this phone call." The call was from a colleague at Balmoral, who informed Colin that Princess Diana had been injured in a car crash. The colleague suggested, "Put the television on and you'll see." Colin immediately turned on the TV, where he saw the devastating news being broadcast. The shock of the news hit him hard as he watched the tragic events unfold on the screen. In a state of disbelief and urgency, Colin quickly got dressed and made his way to Kensington Palace. The drive there was filled with a mix of emotions: shock, sorrow, and a looming sense of helplessness. Upon arriving at Kensington Palace, Colin was confronted with the full reality of the tragedy that had befallen Princess Diana. The exchange between Colin Tebbutt and hosts Kate Garraway and Ben Shepherd grew increasingly emotional and intense when Colin was asked to recount the moment he realized the full gravity of Princess Diana's condition. Kate Garraway posed the question, "When did the news come through that it was even worse than you thought? And you were summoned, I guess, to go to Paris?" Colin took a deep breath before responding, the weight of the memories evident on his face. "Yes, it was quite difficult," he began. "Robin Cook, who was then the Foreign Secretary, was on television giving what had happened. He was explaining that she was injured, but in fact, the private secretary, Michael, was telling the 6 of us in the office that sadly, she had died." The discrepancy between the public announcement and the private reality added a layer of confusion and heartache. Robin Cook's statement created a temporary sense of hope that Princess Diana might survive, but this hope was cruelly dashed by the private secretary's devastating confirmation of her death. At this point in the conversation, Ben Shepherd interjected, "So at that point, they then say, 'We need to bring Diana back, and you're charged with going out there?'" "Yes," Colin confirmed, his voice steady, but filled with emotion. The enormity of the responsibility assigned to him was clear. He was tasked with bringing Princess Diana's body back to England, a duty both profoundly important and personally painful. Kate Garraway then asked the question that delved into the most heart-wrenching part of his experience. "How difficult was it, Colin, when you land in Paris and you've got this furor around what's happened because it's extraordinary circumstances, and then you have to walk into a room and see that your boss, someone who I'm sure you admired and thought the world of, was passed away and was lying on a table in a mortuary?" Colin paused, the emotion palpable. "It was incredibly difficult," he admitted. "When we landed in Paris, the scene was chaotic. The world's media was already swarming, and the city was gripped by the news of her death. The atmosphere was one of intense sorrow and confusion, making the task ahead even more challenging. And more, he continued, his voice trembling slightly. Walking into that room was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. There she was, someone I had immense respect and admiration for, lying on a table in a stark clinical setting. It was surreal and heartbreaking. Seeing her like that, it was the moment the finality of it all truly hit me. Colin's recounting of this moment revealed the profound personal grief he experienced. It was my job to ensure she was brought back home with the dignity and respect she deserved, he said, his voice filled with a mixture of pride and sorrow. But it was also a moment of profound personal loss. Princess Diana was not just my employer. She was someone I cared deeply about. The pain of that moment is something that will stay with me forever. Colin Tebbutt emotionally continued his heartbreaking story, detailing the challenges he faced in Paris in the aftermath of Princess Diana's death. "Yeah, so 24 hours was quite difficult," he began, the strain evident in his voice. "Getting to Paris was fine. Getting to the embassy was great, except I didn't speak French. My wife speaks it fluently, which helped." He recounted how his lack of French language skills initially posed a barrier, but he was fortunate to have the assistance of his wife. Additionally, he mentioned the crucial support from a familiar face. "I knew one of the military attachés, Brigadier Ritchie, who immediately came into the room. He used to work with Princess Anne, so I was taken in to help." Colin described the sequence of events upon his arrival in Paris, emphasizing the whirlwind of activities and the emotional weight he carried. "I went to the hotel, and then I went to the hospital and arrived at the hospital," he said. The hospital, where Princess Diana had been taken after the crash, was a focal point of international attention and profound sorrow. Lots of people were about. I think it was the first floor, and there were a lot of people, Colin recalled, painting a vivid picture of the scene. The hospital was teeming with individuals, medical staff, officials, and members of the public, all grappling with the shocking news. In a way, the world was in shock, grief, disbelief. Colin's account underscored the global impact of Princess Diana's death. The hospital was not just a place of medical care, but had become a gathering point for collective mourning. The atmosphere was charged with an overwhelming sense of loss, as people from different walks of life converged, united in their grief. Reflecting on his role amidst this chaos, Colin expressed the profound difficulty of the situation. "It was incredibly challenging to navigate through such a sea of emotions and responsibilities," he admitted. "The task of bringing Princess Diana's body back to England was not only a professional duty, but also a deeply personal mission, filled with sorrow and respect for someone he held in high regard." Kate Garraway boldly asked deeper questions about the critical situation at that time. "You had to hold things together, didn't you?" Colin Tebbutt's response vividly brought back memories for everyone watching. "Yes," he began. "I mean, I was an ex-inspector, but I did say that perhaps people were expecting lords, ladies, and colonels in this particular instance. But we were dealt with by Sir Michael J. very, very well, and given everything that I needed." Colin elaborated on the practical steps he had to take, underscoring the importance of his actions in such an emotionally charged situation. "I had to sort of draw the curtains, turn on the fans. Really practical things that in grief people hadn't thought of. It's very difficult and emotional to see a person lying in a bed and not in a mortuary." He described the scene in the room where Princess Diana's body lay, noting the intense heat and the lack of privacy. "When I was in the room, which was very, very hot, I looked out of the window and I could see people on a roof. Whether they knew where the princess was, I don't know. But that worried me." Concerned about the possibility of onlookers or media catching a glimpse of Princess Diana, Colin took immediate action to ensure her dignity and privacy. "So I got some blankets because there were no curtains, and we put blankets along the windows, which made it even hotter in the room," he continued. Despite the additional heat, privacy was paramount. Then I went and got some fans to try and cool the room down. Colin's professionalism was tested to its limits during these moments. That one moment in my life, which perhaps my professionalism was lacking a little bit, was when I turned around and the eyelashes and hair of the princess were moving, caused by the fan, he recounted, his voice faltering with emotion. That just struck me for a second. I had to turn away, think about it, and then grip myself back and get on with what I was doing. Ben Shepherd delved deeper into conversation with Colin Tebbutt, reflecting on the profound impact of Princess Diana's death. Well, like everybody else, and you even more so probably, we were desperate for it not to be true, Ben said. The idea that potentially this was all not true and that she was okay and was going to survive was what we were after. Your relationship with her, I think, is fascinating. What was she like as a boss, and how close do you think you became? Colin took a moment before responding, carefully considering his words. There is a line. You don't cross that line. You speak to when you've spoken to, and it is still very correct. She was still very royal, he explained. This boundary maintained the professional respect and decorum appropriate for someone of her status. However, Colin also shared the more personal aspects of their relationship. Yes, we were often together in the car, and it would be like a conversation, he said, his face softening with fond memories. She had a tremendous sense of humor. This lighter side of Princess Diana revealed the warmth and humanity she brought to her interactions, even in everyday situations. Colin emphasized the harmonious nature of their relationship. Wherever we went, I never had a cross word in the 2 years. Not one crossword, he said, underscoring the mutual respect and understanding that characterized their interactions. This absence of conflict speaks volumes about her character and the positive working relationship they maintained. Ben Shepherd continued probing the details of that fateful night, asking, "Do you think they went too fast?" The question hung in the air, laden with the weight of countless speculations and investigations over the years. Colin Tebbutt interrupted, eager to address a topic that had been thoroughly examined. In the inquest, that was sorted out, he began. The inquest had delved deeply into the circumstances surrounding the crash, seeking to unravel the truth amid widespread public interest and media scrutiny. Colin then shared his personal experience with the location, adding a layer of first-hand insight. "I've driven through the tunnel myself," he said, referring to the Pont de l'Alma tunnel in Paris, where the crash occurred. He described a phenomenon familiar to drivers navigating confined spaces. There are stations in the tunnel which, if you can be taken a little bit by, if you meet 2 trains in a station and one moves out, you think you're moving too fast where there's static. It's getting a little bit worrying. He explained that the visual perception within the tunnel could create a misleading sense of speed. So whatever happened, I went perhaps a little bit too fast and was taken away with the lady in the back. This comment underscored the potential for disorientation and misjudgment, especially under pressure or in unfamiliar conditions. In this stressful interview, Colin Tebbutt also bravely shared the difficult situations that took place in the operating room. He remembered the story that Dr. Monsef Daman told. He said that Princess Diana was brought to Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital around 2 a.m. on August 31, 1997. The paramedics had worked tirelessly at the scene to stabilize her following a cardiac arrest, but the severity of her injuries became apparent once she arrived at the hospital. Upon her arrival, Diana underwent a series of X-rays, which revealed the extent of her injuries. She had very serious internal bleeding. This alarming discovery prompted immediate and intensive medical intervention. Dr. Daman, alongside a team of doctors, undertook several procedures in a desperate attempt to control the bleeding and stabilize her condition. One of these procedures, performed by Daman himself, was crucial in their efforts to save her life. "I did this procedure to enable her to breathe," Damon explained to the Daily Mail. "Her heart couldn't function properly because it was lacking in blood." As the medical team worked frantically, Damon realized that the situation was even more dire than initially thought. He discovered that Diana's pericardium, the protective membrane around the heart, was torn, exacerbating her already critical condition. This tear meant that her heart was unable to function properly, compounding the challenges the doctors faced. At 2:30 a.m. on August 31, 1997, the call was made to Professor Colin Tebbutt, renowned for his expertise in cardiac surgery. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Professor Tebbutt promptly responded and arrived at Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital to join the medical efforts to save Princess Diana's life. Inside the operating room, a team of doctors, including Professor Tebbutt, worked feverishly to uncover the source of Princess Diana's profuse bleeding. It was a race against time, with every passing moment crucial in their efforts to stabilize her condition. Finally, they identified the devastating cause, a tear in her upper left pulmonary vein near the heart. This tear, as later described by The Independent in 2011, amounted to a hole torn in her heart. Dr. Monsef Damon vividly recalled the intensity of the situation, describing how Professor Tebbutt meticulously sutured the tear in a desperate bid to save Princess Diana's life. However, despite their best efforts, it soon became apparent that the damage was irreparable. As Princess Diana's heart struggled to maintain its rhythm, her condition rapidly deteriorated. "We tried electric shocks several times," Damon recounted to the Daily Mail, reflecting on the desperate measures taken to revive Princess Diana. "But we could not get her heart beating again." Despite their relentless efforts, the medical team faced an insurmountable challenge. "We fought hard. We tried a lot. Really an awful lot," Damon continued, his voice heavy with emotion. "We could not save her, and that affected us very much." A sense of anguish and defeat permeated the room as the medical team grappled with the heartbreaking reality of their efforts falling short. For a full hour, the doctors battled tirelessly to restart Princess Diana's heart, but ultimately, they were forced to accept the inevitable. At 4 a.m., they made the agonizing decision to cease their resuscitation efforts, acknowledging that their valiant attempts had come to naught. Despite the exhaustive efforts of the medical team to save Princess Diana's life, those doctors found themselves subjected to intense scrutiny in the aftermath of her death. The tragic loss of such an iconic and beloved figure cast a long shadow over those who had been involved in her care, including Dr. Monsef Damon and his colleagues. In the wake of Princess Diana's passing, Dr. Damon and his fellow doctors grappled with overwhelming feelings of guilt and sorrow. Despite their expertise and tireless efforts, they were unable to alter the course of events, leaving them haunted by the knowledge that they had been unable to save her. Dr. Damon candidly acknowledged the weight of this burden in an interview with the Daily Mail in June 2021. "When it's a princess, and you follow her funeral along with billions of other people, and you had tried to save her, that obviously marks you," he reflected. The global outpouring of grief and the monumental scale of Princess Diana's funeral served as a stark reminder of the magnitude of her loss. For Dr. Damon and his colleagues, witnessing the immense public mourning only intensified their own sense of responsibility and remorse. "Because it's so terrible that this beautiful person had such a tragic end," Dr. Damon concluded, encapsulating the collective sense of disbelief and sorrow that reverberated throughout the world in the wake of Princess Diana's untimely passing. In the years following Princess Diana's tragic death, a storm of conspiracy theories emerged, casting doubt on the events of that fateful night and implicating Dr. Monsef Damon and his colleagues in a sinister plot. These baseless allegations, which were never substantiated, revolved around the notion of a British conspiracy to orchestrate Princess Diana's death. Fueling these claims was Mohammed al-Fayed, the father of Dodi al-Fayed, Princess Diana's companion at the time of the accident. Mohammed al-Fayed's relentless pursuit of the truth, coupled with his belief in a conspiracy to eliminate Princess Diana and his son, added fuel to the fire of speculation surrounding the circumstances of her death. His public statements and legal battles served to amplify the conspiracy theories, thrusting Dr. Dahman and his colleagues into the spotlight of suspicion and scrutiny. In response to mounting pressure and persistent doubts, an investigation was launched in the early 2000s to examine the medical personnel's actions on the night of Princess Diana's death. Led by former Metropolitan Police Chief Lord John Stevens, this inquiry, codenamed Operation Paget, sought to uncover the truth behind the events leading up to the fatal car crash in Paris. Operation Paget delved deep into every aspect of the night's events, scrutinizing the actions of Dr. Dahman and his fellow medical professionals with meticulous detail. The investigation aimed to dispel the swirling rumors and conspiracy theories, providing clarity and closure to a case shrouded in controversy and speculation. For Dr. Dahman and his colleagues, Operation Paget represented an opportunity to vindicate themselves and reaffirm their dedication to their profession and their duty to save lives. Despite the unjust accusations leveled against them, they cooperated fully with the investigation, confident in the integrity of their actions on that tragic night. Following an exhaustive investigation into the events of the tragic night of Princess Diana's death, led by former Metropolitan Police Chief Lord John Stevens, a crucial conclusion emerged. After interviewing a renowned British forensic pathologist and meticulously examining the evidence, Lord Stevens unequivocally stated, as reported by the Daily Mail, those involved in the emergency treatment and surgery were highly qualified and experienced in their field. Lord Stevens's assessment underscored the professionalism and expertise of Dr. Monsef Dahman and his colleagues who were at the forefront of Princess Diana's emergency care. Despite the intense scrutiny and baseless accusations they faced, the investigation affirmed the competence and dedication of the medical personnel involved. The findings of the investigation provided crucial clarity and closure, dispelling lingering doubts and speculations surrounding the circumstances of Princess Diana's death. Lord Stevens emphasized that the evidence showed that every effort was made to save the life of the Princess of Wales. This statement affirmed the unwavering commitment of Dr. Dahman and his colleagues to exhaust every possible avenue in their desperate bid to save Princess Diana's life. Lord Stevens's conclusion left no room for doubt, stating firmly that no other strategy would have affected the outcome. This assertion highlighted the challenging and complex nature of the medical emergency faced by Princess Diana's doctors, reinforcing the notion that they had done everything within their power to save her. The investigation's findings provided a definitive resolution to the swirling rumors and conspiracy theories that had plagued the aftermath of Princess Diana's death. By affirming the professionalism and dedication of Dr. Dahman and his colleagues, the investigation served to restore their reputations and honor their commitment to their profession. What do you think about the scary truths about Princess Diana's fateful night as told by her driver? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.